At exactly 4:52 a.m., in the gray morning silence of the Strait of Hormuz, 11 small boats appeared on radar moving fast, very fast, fanning out in a coordinated semicircle directly toward the USS Abraham Lincoln. No radio contact, no identification, no warning. Just 11 Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps speedboats closing at 45 knots, running without navigation lights, cutting through the morning water like they owned it. The IRGC had run this play before: swarm tactics, overwhelm the crew psychologically, force a reaction, get the Americans on camera firing first, or get them on camera doing nothing. Either outcome works for Tehran. 11 boats, 11 propaganda opportunities, all of them racing toward a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier at full throttle as the morning sun climbed over the horizon. They had no idea what they were sailing into. The Abraham Lincoln is not a ship, it is a statement. 100,000 tons of American intent stretched across 4.5 acres of flight deck, powered by 2 A4W nuclear reactors that will run for 20 years without refueling. Her air wing carries over 70 aircraft. Her combat systems process threat data faster than any human nervous system can comprehend. She has been in continuous service since 1989, modernized continuously, updated relentlessly, refined through 3 decades of real-world combat experience in some of the most contested waters on Earth. The Strait of Hormuz is Iran's backyard. The Abraham Lincoln made it look like a parking lot. The first contact came in at 22 nautical miles. The Lincoln's SPS-49 air search radar had been painting the Iranian coastline for hours, but these contacts emerged differently: low, fast, spreading. The signature profile matched IRGC fast attack craft precisely because the Navy had cataloged every one of them in every configuration across hundreds of previous encounters. The operator didn't hesitate, didn't second guess. He tagged the contacts, called the watch officer, and within 60 seconds the entire strike group was tracking 11 separate surface tracks on a converging intercept course. The Iranians thought the darkness was protecting them. The darkness was irrelevant. 4:57 a.m. The Lincoln's tactical action officer ordered immediate threat assessment. The destroyers USS Gonzales and USS Bainbridge tightened formation. Electronic warfare suites activated in passive collection mode. No active jamming, not yet. Just listening, recording every frequency the IRGC boats were broadcasting, every communication passing between their crews, every radar ping they sent out to orient themselves in the water. The Americans were already learning. On the flight deck, 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters lifted off with barely a word spoken. Their crews had rehearsed this scenario more times than they could count. Maritime surface warfare, multiple fast movers, swarm approach vector. The Seahawks climbed to 1,500 feet and turned southwest. Their dipping sonar stowed, their surface search radars active, their electro-optical sensors staring down at the approaching formation with infrared clarity that turned night into noon. 5 miles out, the crews could count individual crew members on the Iranian decks. 5:04 a.m., the situation sharpened. The 11 boats had completed their fan, forming a loose horseshoe directly ahead of the Lincoln's projected course. Classic encirclement geometry. The intent was obvious: box in the carrier, force it to slow or maneuver, film the hesitation, and call it a victory. 2 of the boats accelerated beyond the formation, racing ahead to close off the escape angle to the northwest. Whoever planned this had studied the playbook carefully. What they hadn't studied was the counter playbook. The Lincoln did not slow. The Lincoln did not alter course. The Lincoln continued at 17 knots on the exact same heading it had been maintaining all night. 100,000 tons of American indifference aimed directly at the center of the Iranian formation, like a glacier that hadn't gotten the memo about obstacles. On the bridge, the commanding officer watched the tactical display without visible emotion. He had one question for his TAO: are they weapons hot? The answer came back in seconds. Negative. No weapon systems active, no targeting radar, no fire control locks. They were performing, they were not fighting. The CO nodded once. Hold course. 5:11 a.m., the closest approached. 2 IRGC boats crossed the Lincoln's bow at less than 500 yards, close enough that the crew on the flight deck could hear their engines screaming above the wind. One boat cut directly across the carrier's wake at full throttle, disappearing momentarily in the white water before emerging on the port side, circling back for another pass. The Lincoln's CIWS system, the Phalanx close-in weapon, rotated slowly to track. 20mm barrel, 4,500 rounds per minute, radar-guided, computer-controlled, autonomous in final defense mode. It doesn't ask permission, it doesn't file paperwork. It calculates intercept geometry and waits for engagement criteria to be met with the patience of a machine that has no other purpose. The Iranian crew in that speedboat was 60 feet from one of the most lethal close-range defense systems ever deployed at sea. They were doing donuts next to it for the camera. The engagement criteria were not met. Aggressive was not hostile. Reckless was not an act of war. The failings tracked and waited, and the moment passed, the way most moments pass, without consequence, except for the permanent record it left in the Lincoln's combat logs. 5:19 a.m., the formation began to lose coherence. 3 boats peeled away to the south, circling wide. 2 more held position off the port bow. The remaining 6 clustered in an increasingly disorganized pattern ahead of the carrier, the careful geometry of the original approach dissolving as the Lincoln simply refused to react. The Americans weren't playing the game. You cannot encircle something that doesn't notice it's being encircled. 5:34 a.m., the IRGC boats turned for home. No fanfare, no final radio transmission. They simply accelerated southwest and disappeared back toward Iranian territorial waters in groups of 2 and 3, like they'd just remembered somewhere else they needed to be. The Lincoln logged a course deviation of 0 degrees, speed change of 0 knots. The Seahawks followed the retreating boats for 11 miles, recording departure headings, engine acoustic signatures, and hull identification numbers before breaking off and returning to the flight deck for coffee. The intelligence collected during that 42-minute encounter was substantial. Every communication frequency the IRGC used was now cataloged. Their formation tactics, their spacing intervals, their boat speeds at maximum throttle, all of it recorded and filed into databases that inform American naval planning across the Fifth Fleet area of operations. The Iranians sailed out to test American resolve and instead handed over a detailed technical profile of their entire fast attack doctrine. They spent roughly $30,000 in fuel and maintenance running that operation. The intelligence they surrendered was worth considerably more. Within 6 hours, Iranian state television broadcast footage of the encounter with a simple caption, "Revolutionary Guard forces successfully challenged American aggression in Persian Gulf waters." The Lincoln's navigation logs, available under standard records protocols, documented a carrier that had not changed course, speed, or posture at any point during the encounter. Both things cannot be simultaneously true. Only one of them is. This is how gray zone confrontation actually functions. One side brings speedboats and cameras. The other side brings a floating city with a nuclear power plant and 70 aircraft, and autonomous weapon systems that calculate firing solutions in milliseconds. One side goes home calling it a victory, the other side goes home having collected everything it needed to know. The IRGC came to the Strait of Hormuz looking for a reaction. They found a navy that had stopped being impressed by speedboats around the 3rd decade of dealing with them. The lesson was not delivered with a missile. It was delivered with 100,000 tons of controlled silence moving steadily through their waters at 17 knots without a single degree of deviation. Some threats get answered with firepower. This one got answered with a shrug and a full debriefing folder. That probably hurt more.